So this is coming up to 8:40 hours GMT in the morning of Monday, the 24th of May 2021. So the Kudilar television channel doing the world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street. That is the collected newspapers published from London and called, wrongly called, national newspapers. And the latest big poisonous diversionary lie is in the headline, Boris and Kerry named the big day, but it's not until 2022. Now, if it is not until 2022, why are they putting this about? This is to divert attention from the unfitness. And the unfitness is not something that we are calling it. That's Dominic Cummings. And in the Boris propaganda paper, the Daily Borisgraph, they're admitting that he's saying, his latest saying, is that the COVID plan was in utter chaos. And this says that 80 flights a day will leave the United Kingdom this week as tourists defy government advice. That's the Daily Star. That's the Daily Mirror, not the Star, the same stable, but that's the Daily Mirror. The Star is coming after this one. And this is the Sun doing the scum diversion for Johnson. And this is the bank holiday scorcher after May madness. May, that is the month of May. So the Financial Crimes is contradicting its various reports about the UK economy being set to experience growth, as they criminally call it, not seen in more than 70 years. And now they're talking about glut. Well, the glut is, of course, the opposite of growth, isn't it? So they're putting it in the terminology of glass half full and saying looming gluts mean inflation fears are misplaced. So they're lying. They're not admitting that they have been lying already, but they're lying in this heading. And again, they're promoting another lie about the opening of 21st of June. And it is not based on science or evidence. It's based on political opportunism and lying. And that is because it starts with the word ministers. Ministers have said, what ministers said should read as a warning. Anything ministers say is to be treated as untruth. just to emphasize the point about the references and fact checking on this program and by this campaign, we tweet updates on our campaign activities 247 on twitter.com/Khudilar. Khudilar is spelled as on the banners. And we update them about what we are publishing and what we are not publishing, including we shall be carrying updates on the logistical issues that we are currently experiencing. And the Financial Crimes is admitting that Johnson is facing hard choices of his free trade agenda. Well, Johnson has no agenda about free trade or economy or anything. Johnson is empty. So this Financial Times elevation of Johnson as having any agenda is a criminal, intentional, negligent lie. And this is a piece by this very shifty individual called Ruchir Sharma. Sharma is said to have been born in India, but is described as the chief global strategist for Morgan Stanley Investment Management and as the author of the 10 Rules of Successful Nations. Very shifty indeed. And his shifty piece is published on page 25 of the Financial Crimes as The Short Shelf Life of Pandemic National Success Stories. Now this is, of course, the man who would be absolutely doing the service to Narendra Modi. That is the counter, to counter the failures and disaster and the massacre of the people of India by Narendra Modi's policies. So he's going to make Narendra Modi look not exceptional, but as part of the norm of national failures. And the Financial Crimes is talking about leadership. And it says under that leadership, and it says that the boss is back, but the workers have decided to stay at home. Now, if this is the case, that the workers have decided to stay at home, then this is another confirmation of the lie that people are rejecting, the lie about the kind of safety and advisability of lifting the lockdown restrictions. And there is another one, how to lead. And it's attributed to a thing called Steve Ingham, chief executive of Page Group. Get fit, get out, and get on with life again. This is the slogan. The Financial Crimes is running with the slogan that there is no longer any threat from the pandemic in Britain. And there is an update on Sanjeev Gupta, his shifty behavior. Gupta shifted part of Scottish loan away from the plant. Now, Gupta is the one that is involved in the sleaze and corruption of Cameron concerning the Green Seal and Lex Green Seal of Australia. And there is an obvious statement in this headline anyway. What she says in the content is different. It's a piece by Delphine Strauss. Remittance prove an economic lifeline for developing nations. That's a racist and criminal, imperialistic, lying word, developing. And it is confidently promoting the 21st of June lifting of lockdown. It says lockdown lifting on course for June 21. Well, this is not in accordance with the advice and the opinion of scientists and experts and people who should know from the data and the actual clinical information they have access to. Well, that the criminal who rigged the LIBOR is said that Tom Hayes, the former UBS and Citigroup trader convicted of a conspiracy to rig the LIBOR benchmark, has joined a corporate intelligence agency run by the former Black Cube operative Seth Friedman. Now, this justifies our calling the financial crimes the financial crimes. All the criminals are being glorified and being rehabilitated while the looting continues. And there is a big read on coronavirus. The question is, will we ever reach herd immunity? Now, the herd immunity is a two-edged sword because Cummings has said that Boris Johnson had always wanted herd immunity. And herd immunity is directly linked to the fact that because there was this policy to let everyone get infected, the murders of the people who did die were murders. And there is nothing in anything that the financial crimes is running as headlines or headings that suggests that there exists a thing called the opposition Labour Party or the opposition economic perspective. So the political murder of the Labour Party continues under Keir Starmer, who is now undergoing a confession or confessionals, breaking down in tears about his parents, not breaking down in tears about the losses suffered by millions of people. So we have taken a general look at the front pages, and we shall be looking more later in later editions. To what extent is this report connected with the item in the Sunday Times news review yesterday, Sunday, that gave a critical, hostile kind of treatment to the Black Lives Movement matter? Because this is the item that is contained on page 8 of the Daily Mail today. A former top Black Lives Matter activist was fighting for her life last night after being shot in the head. Sasha Johnson, 27, who styles herself as the Black Panther of Oxford and organized BLM protests last year, was said to have received death threats. Police said they were called to a London address early yesterday, where they found a woman with a gunshot wound. So she is described as the mother of 3. At age 27, Miss Johnson is leading member of Taking the Initiative Party. After cutting ties with BLM in recent months, Taking the Initiative Party has been described as Britain's first black-led political party. Last night, Scotland Yard said the attack happened close to a house where a party was taking place in Peckham, southeast London. It stressed there was no evidence the attack was targeted or that she had received any credible threats against her. Ms. Johnson, an Oxford Brookes University graduate, was seen addressing crowds during BLM marches last summer, wearing a black beret, stab-proof style vest, and camouflage trousers. In a statement on Facebook, TTIP said Ms. Johnson had faced death threats as a result of her activism. It added, "It is with great sadness that I inform you that our own Sasha Johnson has sustained a gunshot wound to her head." The Daily Mail said a dedicated team of detectives is working tirelessly to identify the person or persons responsible for this shooting. And there is a two-page spread about the BBC, shaming of the BBC. 2 years before the Diana interview, BBC mocked up letter for its Venables expose. BBC chief said faking documents was general practice. Fake document on Panorama. Same report without Dyson's redactions. And without the redactions, and there is a long piece about Priti Patel saying that the BBC faces reform. And Nazir Afzal is brought back from death or retirement, saying that there has to be a criminal inquiry into the BBC. So the Daily Mail from page 5, 6, page 6, 7, 8, 9, and the Daily Mail has got a mention of the allegations that Michael Jackson made against Bashir, that Bashir lied and tricked his way. As we have said in the last 24 hours, the Jackson family will be demanding justice for Michael Jackson, for Martin Bashir's deception against him. And that is what is happening now. One of the most logical follow-ups that can be expected from the coverage about the Martin Bashir behavior over the Diana interview. And Brian is being reported as condemning. Brian is the son of Brenda. Brenda is the name of the monarch, the Queen Elizabeth. And Charles bashes Bashir's lurid and untrue claims. And bashing Bashir is the sport now, and it will continue for a while yet. And Trevor, the terrible liar, Kavanagh, is now turning his ire against Dominic Cummings, whom he is planning to destroy clown prime minister. That clown is within quotation marks, sorry. Now, what we have seen in the papers, including the Financial Crimes, is that there is no recognition of people. People only exist as fodder, as useful fodder from Johnson and the cabal in place at number 10 Downing Street. They don't matter in their own rights. And that is what the Guardian has been doing for the 200 years. And the rest of history that has existed for 200 years, like the Times, has been doing the same. And there is an item in the the Daily Mirror, about Argos. Argos has become the latest big business embroiled in a fire and rehire controversy. Now, we shall be talking at length about Argos and other big business outlets that are operating online increasingly. And online and internet companies are stealing money from customers who never agreed or authorized the payments. But the companies, big business companies, are stealing money by abusing the information, the banking details that they were given for one-off purchases. And they're doing this in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in UK alone. So that is one key clue as to the billionaires. How do these big companies become billionaires? That is how they do it. They're robbing, literally robbing people, customers, and stealing the money from the banks by abusing access to bank details that are not meant for other payments or transactions, except the one about which the bank details were given to the companies. We shall, of course, have our own big broadcast on this one, how they become billionaires. And there is an item about India. About the Indian wrestler who is described as an Olympic medalist. Wrestler Sushil Kumar sits in a vehicle shortly after his arrest over a brawl in which one of the victims later died. Two-time Olympic medalist Sushil Kumar was arrested yesterday in connection with the murder of a fellow Indian wrestler, Delhi police said. Both Sushil Kumar and the second man detained over the same offense later appeared in court, a Delhi police spokesman said, without giving details of potential charges. Mr. Kumar denied any wrongdoing in a plea for anticipatory bail, he said to Delhi court last week, which was dismissed. Delhi police issued a lookout notice for Mr. Kumar after a 4th of May brawl outside Delhi's Chhatrasal Stadium. Chhatrasal, we shall check on that name. 3 people were admitted to hospital after the incident, and one of them, former junior national champion, eventually succumbed to his injuries. Mr. Kumar, aged 37, won a silver medal in the 2012 Olympics and a bronze in the 2008 Games. And in Burma, protesters claim to have killed 13 soldiers when they set fire to a police station in Myanmar yesterday. The armed activists also took 4 hostages in the siege of the building in the eastern town of Mobi, as growing unrest over February's military coup continues, local media reported. A gun battle also erupted near the Chinese border early yesterday, while on Saturday, a group launched an attack on a jade mining town near neighboring India. So there is no mention of the genocide by the Burmese regime, genocide committed against the Muslim Rohingyas, nor of the massacre, rapes, and murders of the Muslim Rohingyas committed by the Burmese junta, and especially committed the genocide committed by the Burmese junta when Aung San Suu Kyi was the leader of the regime. And Suu Kyi has been made the kind of face or name of the resistance against the junta now by the international community, international media, including the United Nations, who are pretending that the genocide didn't take place. They're pretending that the more than 1 million Rohingyas, nearly 2 million Rohingyas, are scattered all over the world seeking refuge and asylum and being abused and denied the rights enshrined in the international treaties covering refuge and migrants and people fleeing persecution and genocide and all the problems that the Rohingyas were fleeing from and have fled from that existed and still exist in Burma, both in Rohingya area, that is the Rakhine province, as well as in the rest of Burma, where the Rohingyas are denied any status as Burmese. And there is a piece on page 5 of the Boris Graph. France may toughen UK travel restrictions over Indian variant. Now, this is absolutely the type of confession and confusion. This is what we were saying at the beginning, that they are saying that the lockdowns are absolutely certain to be lifted on the 21st of June. But this is the admission that it cannot be, because if France is treating Britain as dangerous, then how can the lockdowns and restrictions be lifted on the 21st? And again, Priti Patel and Priti Patel is being given a platform by Lucy Fisher in the Boris Graph against Dominic Cummings, because Cummings is due to appear before the particular committee of the MPs in the House of Commons tomorrow. And he has been widely reported as preparing to sink Boris Johnson, but that will not happen. And I shall explain later why that will not happen. And Starmer is featuring, as I said before, about his pain over mother's terrible death. Starmer is not being reported about politics in Britain and the massacre of the innocent people because of the herd immunity. And Lucy Fisher is giving platform to Priti Patel, who is acting as an agent of Boris Johnson in denying that Boris Johnson had the herd immunity as policy, which is what caused the massacre of the uncounted numbers of people, because the official figure of the casualties is completely unreliable, untrue, and is not credible. And Theresa May's kind of evil advisor, one of the pair of evil advisors, Nick Timothy, Nick Timothy is saying a very big racist kind of speech. If the police accept the idea of structural racism, no one is safe. So they are in racist, wanton denial of the existence of racism in Britain. And they've got a cartoon on the Boris graph against Dominic Cummings, aiming a gun at Boris and saying, "Get Boris, sack Hancock, destroy the blob." And he's hiding in the bushes, wearing camouflage, and there is a saying now, who is it attributed to? The Vax Task Force, saying, "Come out, the fighting's over." Now this is all very internal, because there is a piece by the jobbing commentator Tim Stanley, who is again doing the promotion for Boris Johnson against Dominic Cummings. So we shall be going further into the details of these in due course. Now, as I said earlier, the broadcast is being affected by in terms of the frequency and the length. And we had issues yesterday, Sunday the 23rd of May 2021. So these length and the frequency of the broadcast are being affected directly by the kind of issues that we have, logistical issues, technical issues to do with access to the particular computer device or devices, which we shall be continuing to attempt to bring back to the level where it is optimum level of operation. And we shall be starting to update on the betrayal by Tower Hamlets Council in London, East London, of the schoolgirls, the Bethnal Green schoolgirls and the issues. And we shall be talking about the corruption in Tower Hamlets Labour Party, the corruption in the rest of the parties, so-called parties, the Lib Dems, and the Conservatives in Tower Hamlets. And the crooks have lied and have been proven to have lied to keep the so-called executive mayor post running in Tower Hamlets. And so therefore the need for an independent, effective campaign to force the scrapping of the elected mayor is underway. And we shall be updating accordingly on the level of the campaign as it stands at the given time. And there is a quotation mark within which increasingly confident is written. So the so-called health secretary, the crook, Matthew Hancock, is allegedly increasingly confident of lifting restrictions on 21st of June. And this woman, who is a jobbing liar, Jane Merrick, has got a piece under the analysis on the I newspaper, saying roadmap on course for the removal or lifting of the restrictions, as data suggests vaccine effective against variant. That's a lie, because as I have said, France is not accepting the British propaganda. Now, there is a thing under the heading, Bashir, I never wanted to harm Diana in any way. Well, nobody has said that he has harmed Diana in the direct way, but the point is about his track record as a liar and a fraudster and a denier and a deceiver. But he's not the only one. And there is this under the media, Adam Sharwin, Priti Patel, the British Interior Minister, hints at Netflix-style subscription fee to fund the BBC. And Joe Cox, the MP who was murdered by a racist in Batley in West Yorkshire, her sister is now the Labour Party candidate for the Batley and Spen constituency. Batley and Spen constituency has become vacant after the woman who became MP after Joe Cox's murder was elected police and crime commissioner, I think, or something like that, for that area on the 6th of May. And the I newspaper is running a big piece about the Johnson hitting back at Cummings over hard immunity claims. And there is a confession. This is the one that is a reprint of the piece in the Financial Times. And this guy is getting everywhere with contradictory pieces. Now, this one in the Financial Times, which is reproduced in the I newspaper, it is headed, "It is unwise to claim victory yet in the fight against COVID." This is Ruchir Sharma, the Indian-born strategist at Morgan Stanley in New York. And in the USA, Dua Lipa has said she rejects all forms of racism. Well, that has to be elaborated on. And they've got a piece promoting Pierce Moron as revealing the real Keir Starmer. Can Pierce Moron save Keir Starmer? That remains to be seen. And the Oliver Dowden is accusing the BBC of groupthink. Now, Dowden, whose mental age is under 2, I think, must have been at nursery school when the American warmonger in George W. Bush's cabinet was talking about groupthink, and there were so many dysfunctional members of the George W. Bush cabinet, including, in addition to Bush, George W. Bush himself, that it's very difficult to exactly identify which one of the liars and morons had said groupthink first. But whichever one had done that, Oliver Dowden, the so-called culture secretary in the UK, is being idiotic, accusing the BBC of groupthink. because the entire platform of the UK Conservatives were in favor of the war against Iran, war plans against Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, and the rest of the Middle East. And they never raised a question about the use of the war or the strategy. And there is an addition, and there is a completely unprecedented admission in this subheading. The pandemic has aggravated weaknesses. The pandemic has aggravated weaknesses in Britain's education system. The Times today launches its own independent commission to consider options for reform. I mean, the Times is not going to make things better because it is an extension of the propaganda narrative and agenda of the dirty digger Rupert Murdoch. It contains page 21 today, page 20, the same promotion for Piers Morgan. And the heading is Tearful Starmer Relives Family Tragedies. This is a rehabilitation of the crook and the liar Starmer by mysteriously, coincidentally, staging a Piers Morgan interview just as when he is being prepared for burial politically because of his stupidity, corruption, and collusion and complicity with Johnson and the Brexiteers and the liars. And there are 2 pages of coverage on pages 6 and 7. And the name they're peddling is Priti Patel, but it is Johnson who Priti Patel actually represents. BBC has been compromised by Bashir scandal. That's a lie. BBC has always been lying. And the Bashir scandal is part of the norm. So whose cartoon is it today? And Max Hastings, who was editor, Max Hastings, who was editor of the Telegraph, Daily Boris Graph, before it became Boris Graph, is talking about Johnson coming to an end of his fraud about being a pleaser of the people. As an injection, what is being injected into Johnson's head is not necessarily clear, but that is what the cartoon is saying. It's not a Peter Brooks cartoon. It's another one. And there is a piece in the Times, which is an idiotic piece about pension. The time to save for your pension is in your 50s, not in hard up youth now. Why this is idiotic? Because there is an assumption underlying that piece that everything about pension and poverty and income is smoothly running and that people are being fairly given their pension etc., that they deserve. That's an absolute lie. Okay, so what we shall be doing in the next part will be to go into some of the updater events and issues, including talking at length about the corruption of the corrupt and crooked and racist judicial bureaucracy in Britain. She'll be doing that sooner than has been the case in the last few days.